It's Sunday, December 27th, 2015. This is Real in the Field Goals, the instant reaction show. And our instant reaction today is the Seahawks 23 to 17 loss to the St. Louis Rams at home. Not a lot to feel good about in Seattle's loss to St. Louis, but we're going to try and find some of the good things that you can focus on. And I think I've already got a few in the chamber ready to go. We'll see what DK has. But I'm Kenneth Arthur. With me, as always, Danny Kelly. And Dan, obviously, you never like to lose, but what's one thing about this game where maybe it's not so bad?
Well, let's see. The one thing that you can take away from this game is that, weirdly enough, it was the second lowest offensive output yardage-wise of a winning team this year. So it wasn't like the Seahawks got totally ran. You know what I mean? They were actually doing a pretty good job of limiting the offensive attack by the Rams until that one drive in the fourth quarter where they failed to recover two fumbles. And then the Rams actually ended up scoring and kind of putting the game away. But I guess overall, it wasn't a terrible performance defensively, and it kind of looked like it, but I don't think it really was. Obviously giving up 7 points on that fumble recovery return was big, and then failing to come up with those two turnovers was big also. So, I mean, I don't know. It was one of those games, and Jackson talked about it a little bit on Twitter afterwards. It was just kind of a fluky game. A lot of weird stuff happened. Two really crazy snaps that really killed momentum for the Seahawks. A couple drop passes that they normally maybe hang on to. The Rams, they actually, I kind of came away like the Rams. I liked how the Rams played on defense, actually, in terms of they were really, really physical. They kind of looked like the Seahawks in terms of they were lighting up Seahawks receivers and dislodging the football on a couple of big key plays, and that's kind of the Seahawks identity. I will say the Rams have a reputation for being dirty, and there was a few plays in there that you're like, okay, but overall, I think what they did was, really just physical football and kind of beat up on the Seahawks a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, we talk a lot about how you win, and it's important how you win. That's the reasons that that I'm more down on, say, the Carolina Panthers than those people, because 14 wins, I don't think they're all created equal, and so it's also important to note how you lose and why it's important to point out that the Seahawks are always in every single game. This one being one of the few ones where at the end it was fairly hopeless. Mm-hmm. That's fine, but it's certainly when you talk
really wasn't even, though. They would have gotten that.
That was the whole thing, is that they definitely, I'm sure St. Louis was very scared of the fans were very scared about, the possibility of the Seahawks being able to come back from 13 points in the fourth quarter. They've done it before. But when you talk about, it's really unbelievable that, Earl Thomas did not recover that first fumble by Benny Cunningham, that it was right in his bucket, and everybody was stunned that the Seahawks didn't come out with that one. Yeah. And then 2 plays later, Jeremy Lane has his arms stretched out to recover the fumble, and it's just not there. He just doesn't have arms that are long enough. And Russell Wilson, he goes down, and within, inches or whatever, he fumbles the ball. It doesn't go out of bounds, doesn't reach over and grab it. There's a lot of things that happened in this game that
forgot about that too.
Yeah, there was a lot of things in this game that went one way that very easily could have gone the other, and the outcome of the game could have been a lot different. The snaps, they had 3rd and 2 in the drive before that, and that's when Russell Wilson, when the Patrick Lewis snapped it, just a straight shot on the ground. And if they didn't, even if they didn't convert that 3rd and 2, they would have gone for it on 4th and 2. So they had 2 shots to pick up 2 yards.
Those are game-changing plays. Yeah, game-changing plays.
So all those things could put together, I don't think the Seahawks lost a horrible way today that would make you feel necessarily that much different about their playoff chances. They were playing the Rams at home. Should they have won? Did we expect them to win by 14 or 15 or 20 points? Yes. Did they do that? No. Do they have problems on the offensive line because Russell Wilson was, in trouble all day? Yes. Were they playing against Aaron Donald, one of the best defensive linemen in the world? Yes. There were a lot of things. Were they playing without Russell Okung? There's a lot of things that I don't feel necessarily worse about. Does this have any effect do you think on their playoff seed?
It potentially could. Obviously, I think what we're doing now is waiting to see what happens with Minnesota, and we could end up the Seahawks could end up being the 6th seed instead of 5 seed. At this point, I don't really care, to be honest. I think going to Washington and playing the 5 seed, even though they're not a very good team particularly, I think that's going to be difficult because that field is shitty. They're playing, they're a very confident team right now. I think that the Seahawks match up maybe a little bit better against some of these other teams, in fact. So I don't know. To me, it's like whatever. Anything in the playoffs is going to be hard. And so I'm not really too concerned about the playoff seeding at this point. It's just like I talked about it in a DM the other day when we were talking about playoff seeding. I'm just like, just tell me when it's over. I don't really care, honestly. Just whoever they play, that'll be fine. I'm not rooting for one thing or another.
It was definitely, unlike you could look at the Pittsburgh Steelers who lost today and really hurt their playoff chances. They were 87, like you said, they were 87% to make the playoffs by Football Outsiders, and now they don't even have any say in it. If the Jets beat the Bills next week, the Jets.
What do the odds mean? I never understand that.
Right. I think it was they run like 1,000 simulations, and in 87% of those simulations, the Steelers go to the playoffs. But
my brain can't comprehend what that actually means, though. You know what I mean? Like, It just doesn't mean, it doesn't move the needle for me whatsoever. It's like, but whatever. That's just me.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. 99% to make the playoffs isn't 100%, and the Seahawks are 100%. So they will be going to the playoffs, and if they're 9-7 or 10-6, just like I said, it doesn't really matter if you go 19-0. It doesn't really matter if you win the Super Bowl after going 9-7. The teams have done it. The Giants did it in 2011 against the Patriots, and I think it was the 2011 or the 2017. But either way, it's been done before, and nobody goes back and says that the Giants' Super Bowl win doesn't count.
No, not at all.
Win the Super Bowl, that's the only thing that matters. So the Seahawks road wasn't changed much today because, if they go to Minnesota, if they go to Green Bay, or if they, who lost by 30 today, or they go to Washington, who, like you said, have been playing very well, it shouldn't make a huge difference.
Look at this. If you want to feel a little bit better, just look at what happened to the Packers today. Again, it goes back to, someone's going to say you're like you're an apologist or whatever, but it's like how you lose does make a difference. I think the Seahawks played just about as crappy as I could ever imagine them playing, and they lost by a touchdown, right?
I think you could argue, that the Patriots played worse against the Jets. The Jets handled that game pretty much the whole time until the end, and the Patriots did to lose the way that they did to the Jets and the coin toss and everything. But there's a lot of teams out there, and it is a matter of.
Today was a weird day.
It was
in the NFL, like in general.
Overall, one of the weirdest days for the NFL this season, if not.
I think you can safely say that, right? Like the Packers. I didn't expect them to win necessarily, but they got their ass handed to them. Going through the Ravens beat the Steelers. The Falcons beat the Panthers.
Right.
There's just a bunch of weird games today. And it was like the Colts beat the Dolphins with like their third string quarterback. The Jets beet the Patriots.
Brian Mallett wasn't even on the Ravens 11 days ago.
It's just like, what the hell?
Steelers. So, the most important thing is the Seahawks are in the playoffs.
That is the most important thing.
They will be getting some players back. I don't know if they'll get all their players back, and I don't know which players they'll get back. But you'd think by the time the playoffs in 2 weeks, they will have Cam Chancellor. He seems like he's been close to playing, it seems to me.
Yeah.
From the reports, so you would think he comes back. There were reports that Marshawn Lynch could be back next week.
His MMA instructor said that he will be back, so we'll see what that means.
That's good. Maybe he was talking about MMA, though. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Get into the
that's his second career. Yeah,
that's not what they're playing. But I think so. The other thing is, everyone talks about how Russell Wilson had 70 straight games of having a lead in every game.
That's too bad.
But but that means that this was the first game of Russell Wilson's career where he didn't blow a lead, or they didn't have a lead to blow. So, I mean, he has 20 losses, and this is the first one where he didn't blow the lead. So, there you go.
Yeah. I mean, overall,
they didn't have a lead to blow.
What's that?
Yeah, they didn't have a lead to blow. I mean, you can't. There were 8 fumbles game. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah,
and the way that they went did not go in Seattle's way. Russell Wilson threw an interception today. Do you have any feelings about the pick?
I mean, no, because it was like on a 3rd and 20 or something. It was like on a 3rd and 15. So 3rd and really long, so I think they just had to just take a shot downfield. He underthrew the guy. He underthrew Tyler Lockett because he was getting pressure right in his face. And it ended up, he ended up intercepting it on the 11-yard line. It wasn't like to me, that wasn't like a debilitating pick or anything like that. It was, we joke about the arm punt thing, but it really was kind of just like an arm punt, like whatever. The odds of them picking up a first down on that play are very, very low in the first place. So I like the idea that they take a shot downfield. It didn't work out in that sense or in that occasion, but it doesn't like bother me. That one doesn't bother me. The fumble late in the game, where was he? Like down inside the 10-yard line or something? That bothered me a lot, just because he had the choice to run out of bounds at one point. He decided to stay in bounds, and then he could have slid, but he didn't. It's just like idiot. Like, I mean, he is the smartest running quarterback of all time. Honestly, I think like he's made so many good decisions, but that one really cost him. I mean,
he was clearly he was like, I got to score right now, and that wasn't necessarily the case, even though they were down 13 points. But it was pretty clear that he was going down. I don't know why he thought necessarily that he could get it, but yeah, their time was running down. You have first down, first and goal, or first and 10 from inside the 15. You got to get one. So
that was a big turnover.
Yeah, very big, and it definitely didn't look like it would be a turnover, but. Anytime a player loses a ball, even if they don't think that it's a real fumble, you see them grab for it. So I thought it was weird that he wasn't the first person to start to try and just get it back in, and that could have changed it too. But overall, Russell Wilson he gets a touchdown and squeezes one in the end. I mean, the totality is that over the last 6 games, he has 21 touchdowns and 1 interception. So there's still plenty going right. I think that. It was very hard for him to do much with what he was working with, as well as the conditions he was working in. So, not exactly the Russell Wilson that I expect to see in the playoff. I think that you can still look at the last streak of 5 games and say that Russell Wilson is still playing as good as he ever has in his career, and then maybe just understand that this was. Don't think I want to be the guy that makes excuses for Russell Wilson, and definitely want to talk about the times when he needs to, but at the end of the day, a decent game from Russell Wilson with at least one and a couple of like you said, the Rams got to give credit to the Rams for how hard they are to stop up front, and then also the way that their cornerbacks and defensive backs were being so physical, as you said. So overall, I don't think that it puts a huge damper on Seattle's Super Bowl hopes. I think everything will be as it was, and we'll see what happens with the Vikings. We'll see who the playoff opponent is, and we won't know that now until next week.
You should give a quick recap on your article recently written about how there's really no such thing as momentum into the playoffs.
I mean, one of the things about momentum that's been talked about a lot, like I learned it early on with some of the advanced stuff that they were doing over with Jeff Sullivan at Lookout Landing and Dave Cameron, and I think that they always talked about how people would, they have cliches and sports cliches and go-to sports things that people in and around sports say, they're always talking about momentum, and those guys like Dave Cameron always pounded home that momentum does not exist in sports. It's not a real thing. And so, it is what it is. I think that you can talk about some sort of, well, if a guy's getting in a better mood, maybe he'll play different, or he can get into the zone or whatever. But overall momentum does not exist. And as it shows with all of the Super Bowl winners of recent, dating back to 2002 realignment, is that the longest winning streak. Basically, the 2000 Patriots went in with like a, I forget, 12-game winning streak or whatever, and they won the Super Bowl. Every single other team since then that's had longer than a 4-game, none of the Super Bowl winners has had a 4-game winning streak going into the playoffs. The only one being that 4-game winning streak belonged to the Steelers in 2005 that beat the Seahawks. So other than that, nobody even had more than 2, I think, 2 or 3. So being able to go and win all your games and be the hottest team in the NFL at the end of the year doesn't mean anything. It's about being the hottest team in the playoffs. So right. I don't think that their momentum, if it so existed, is stopped. I think that they were banged up today. They always play bad against the Rams. I think the Rams played well. I think the Rams' offense played about as bad as you expect them to, with the exception of a few plays. And I think that'll sort of show itself out. And if the Seahawks manage to, get into the second round of the playoffs and play the Panthers or the Cardinals, I think it'll still be a very hard-fought game, and I would still expect to beat Carolina at least maybe 1 or 2 point favorite. That type of thing would be in my head. It's very close, but I think everybody should feel decently if you're a Seahawks fan. So I think that'll do it for this quick episode of the Instant Reaction podcast for Real on the Field Goals. If you have any questions, send them to Danny on Twitter at Field Goals. Go to fieldgoals.com for all the post-game stuff. If you can stomach it right now, I think that, injuries came out not so bad, and some things that look like they could be injuries to Russell Wilson and Tyler Lockett did not seem to rear their head again after that. So that's another positive, bright side thing. And next week, the Cardinals, we'll see what's on the line for Arizona, whether or not they can get the number 1 seed. I still think that's up for grabs after Carolina's lost. The Seahawks will obviously be playing perhaps for a 5 or a 6 seed, depending on what happens with the Vikings. And then we will know who to preview for the first round of the playoffs. And that'll be a good episode, won't it, Danny?
Definitely.
And I can feel the excitement in your voice. And I think that people seem to be taking this loss pretty well for a reason, which is as much as you don't like to lose at home. That's the other thing. The Seahawks were not that good at home this year, surprisingly.
They lost 3 games at home.
And they almost lost to the Lions. That game against the Steelers was not very pretty.
Right, that's what I was going to say. So, I don't know. Yeah, it was, but at the same time, that doesn't matter now because they go on the road next week, then they're on the road in the playoffs, and they don't have any more home games. So I guess it's probably not the top of our concern at this point because they're not playing at home anymore this year.
You want to get home games, but maybe they're playing a little bit better on the road this year, and maybe that will work out in their favor come January. So stay tuned this week around Thursday-ish for our next episode of Real in the Field Goal. Subscribe on iTunes so you can get automatically downloaded, and we'll come back to Real in the Film Goals then too. So that's it for this week, and listen to us on Thursday. Bye.